You know how sometimes your life turns into the kind of drama you only expect to see on Netflix? Well, this is one of those stories. And I'm not exaggerating when I say, by the end of it, I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I'm about to spill everything. 'Cause yeah, I was engaged. To two men. Who also just so happened to be best friends. By the way, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I love seeing where all of you are tuning in from. Go ahead and drop it in the comments because I promise you, this one's gonna make your jaw drop. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was 28, living in Atlanta, working as a marketing director for a mid-sized skincare company. It was one of those jobs that sounds glamorous but in reality just means you spend 60 hours a week making PowerPoints, micromanaging interns, and trying not to cry in the bathroom between meetings. Needless to say, I didn't exactly have time for a social life. I'd been single for a little over a year after a brutal breakup that left me swearing off men, marriage, and everything in between. But you know how it is. One lonely Friday night, too much wine and bam, I found myself re-downloading a dating app. That's where I met James. James was smooth. In the best way. He had this effortless confidence like he actually liked who he was. He was tall, clean-cut, a software engineer with a quiet, grounded vibe. He didn't try too hard, just made me laugh, ask great questions, and didn't bring up his ex once. A rare gem in the online dating world. Our first date was at a rooftop wine bar. He wore this navy button-up that matched his eyes, and he smelled like cedarwood and ambition. I remember thinking, oh, this is different. And it was. For the first time in a long time I felt seen. Safe. Like I could exhale. Within a few months I was basically living at his place. This loft downtown with exposed brick and dim lighting and way too many succulents. My friends liked him. My mom loved him. He even cooked. I mean, how could I not fall? But here's the part no one ever talks about. Just because someone's great on paper doesn't mean they're right for you in your bones. And I didn't realize that. Until I met Liam. It started one night when James was out of town for a work retreat. I was feeling restless, something I couldn't quite name. So I met my girls for a drink at this low-lit whiskey bar in East Atlanta. That's where Liam walked in. He didn't just walk, he strode like a man who didn't care if he was late, because the night would wait for him. Tall, broad shoulders, messy dark hair. Tattoo peeking out from under his t-shirt. The kind of man who makes you straighten your back without even realizing it. He made eye contact with me while ordering a drink and gave me this half smirk. Equal parts curiosity and challenge. When he finally approached, his first line was, "You look like someone who knows the difference between a good lie and a bad one. Tell me that's not magnetic." We talked for an hour like we were old flames from another life. I told him I was seeing someone. I even showed him a picture of James. He shrugged and said, "Lucky guy." And that was it. We didn't kiss. Didn't flirt really. But the tension? Thick enough to slice with a steak knife. He asked for my number. I hesitated. Then gave it to him. At first it was harmless. Friendly texts. Sharing memes. Sending song recommendations. But the more we talked, the more I realized how alive he made me feel. I could be raw with him. Petty, passionate, me, not the curated, professional girlfriend I was with James. And then one night, while James was in Chicago for a tech conference, Liam asked if I wanted to grab a drink. I said yes. It was a cozy little jazz bar. We sat in the back, sipped bourbon, talked about childhood regrets and bucket list dreams. And when he walked me to my car, he kissed me. I didn't stop him. I should have. But I didn't. I cried the whole drive home. I told myself I'd never see Liam again. I was going to tell James the truth. But then, James came home early. He brought me sunflowers. Told me he missed me. And then he proposed. A rooftop dinner. Fairy lights. That stupid, perfect smile. The ring was a vintage sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. Exactly what I once told him in passing during a conversation 6 weeks prior. And I said yes. Because I panicked. Because in that moment, saying no felt like detonating my entire life. So I shoved the Liam part of me down. Locked her up. Told myself she didn't exist. But she did. And she wasn't going quietly. I tried to ghost Liam. I ignored his texts. Blocked his number. But he showed up, at James' best friend's housewarming party. Because plot twist, Liam was James' best friend. The one he'd talked about endlessly. The one who'd been traveling in Europe for months. The one I had never seen in person until now. Yet, I nearly dropped my drink when he opened the door. He looked at me stunned. I looked at him speechless. And then James appeared behind me, smiling like a fool. "Claire, this is Liam. My best man." I almost passed out. Liam, cool as ever, just shook my hand and said, "Pleasure to meet you." And from that moment on, my life became a slow burn thriller. Liam started showing up everywhere. Dinners, double dates, board game nights. And he never outed me, but he made sure I felt it. Little digs, side glances, inside jokes only we understood. He once played a playlist during poker night with the exact songs we talked about during our first late-night texting session. And James? Clueless. He'd look at the two of us like, "Wow, my fiancé and best friend get along great." I lived in anxiety 24/7, until things escalated. It was James' birthday. We threw a weekend party at a lake house. Everyone was drinking, dancing, grilling, classic summer vibes. But I was on edge. Liam was there, watching me. Later that night, after James passed out drunk, Liam cornered me on the dock. "You ever stop pretending, Claire?" he asked. I told him to stop, that this couldn't happen. He kissed me anyway, and I kissed him back. We didn't sleep together that night, but we might as well have. The emotional intimacy was worse than anything physical. After that, I broke things off with Liam, told him I couldn't keep living like this. He nodded, tight-lipped, said, "Guess I always fall for the ones who belong to someone else." But then James, sweet, unsuspecting James, came home from work with tickets to Italy. "Let's elope," he said. "Just you and me. Start fresh." I said yes again. But the guilt? It became physical. I started losing weight, losing sleep. I'd stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering who I even was anymore. And just when I finally decided I'd come clean, everything blew up. James saw a text from Liam on my phone while I was in the shower. Something simple. Just, "Do you ever think about what we almost had?" James showed up at Liam's apartment that night. I didn't know until Liam called me. Angry, panicked. "I rushed over." They were screaming. James had punched a hole in the wall. Liam looked like he wanted to throw up. And then James turned to me and asked, "How long?" I couldn't lie anymore. I told him everything. The kiss. The feelings. The guilt. How I never meant for it to go this far. But I didn't know how to stop once I started. James didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just nodded and walked out. Liam and I never got together after that. Because the truth is, we were built on betrayal. And no matter how magnetic the chemistry, you can't build a future on ashes. It's been over a year now. James moved to Denver. Got engaged again to a teacher. I found out through a mutual friend. Liam texted me once on my birthday. Just a simple, "Hope you're okay." I never replied. I'm still single. Still healing. Still working through the part of me that thought she could juggle two hearts and not break her own in the process. But I'm also stronger, wiser, and very, very done with love triangles. So yeah, I was engaged to 2 men, best friends. And I'll never forget the moment they both realized they were in love with the same woman. Me. What would you have done? Would you have told the truth sooner? Stayed with Liam? Stayed with James? Tell me in the comments because I still think about it every single day.